I gotta be honest, as much as I like Battlefield 6 or Battlefield in general, it can be quite frustrating at times, especially depending on server performance, game performance, current box and hit registration. So last weekend I sat down and scrolled through my Steam library, desperately looking for some good alternatives that would scratch that Battlefield itch when Battlefield doesn't. And after downloading roughly 600 gigabytes of games, I could finally jump into the first one. And that was the Battlefield from Outer Space Star Wars Battlefront 2. Built by the same developers using the same tech as Battlefield, Battlefront 2 is technically Battlefield, just in disguise. And I love to play this game ever since it was released. Well, maybe not right at the beginning when we had this pay-to-win mechanic card stuff, but once this was fixed, I found it very enjoyable, and I still do to this day. It lets you play as your favorite Star Wars heroes or villains, as different classes with distinct abilities, delivers objective-based modes with up to 64 players and with a classic Battlefield formula, and weapons and their upgrades are kept quite simple. So overall it's like a more casual Battlefield, but in a sci-fi universe. For me, this is still a game that comes close to the Battlefield feel, even though it's more casual, and that I do enjoy playing for a change. Next, I hopped onto BattleBit Remastered, and this is actually a game that I play every now and again anyway, so it was nothing I had to test or explore for this video. It's also a great alternative, but with a lot of depth in gameplay mechanics, so not a casual experience, but the graphics might not be for everyone. It also has a pretty low player count right now, barely scratching 600 concurrent players at peak times, but for some quick games in between, it's still quite refreshing. It takes heavy inspiration from Battlefield 3 and 4, it has large maps with up to 254 players, a full class system as well as vehicles and destructible environments, and it runs pretty well even on low-end PCs. It delivers the chaotic teamwork-driven warfare that Battlefield used to do, and it also has a server browser. But right now there's mostly only one full server available anyway, so there's not much of a choice. Nonetheless, if you're looking for something that comes really close to Battlefield from the gameplay mechanics and you don't mind the graphics style, then this game is definitely worth a try. Plus, the developers are reworking the game right now, so maybe we can see some bigger changes and improvements in the future. At least if they don't fall back into radio silence again like they did the last 2 years. But that's not the point of this video right here. If you want to know more of this, by the way, you can watch this video here in the info box, and we're gonna move on to the next game. And that is Delta Force. And I gotta be honest, I hadn't played the game for quite a bit before touching it again for this video. And the reason I had stopped playing back then was that the game started to feel old pretty fast. And what was another point is that even though it tried to feel like Battlefield, or it tried to be Battlefield actually, it was still lackluster. Maybe because they kind of copied the least well-received Battlefield in the franchise, Battlefield 2042. Nonetheless, the game belongs on this list simply because it can deliver some Battlefield feeling, and because it has a lot of content for a free-to-play game. Because it has a single-player campaign, which is a remake of the original Black Hawk Down experience from 2003. It has an extraction mode that is still very well played, at least if we can trust the player numbers on Steam, and there is also an all-out warfare multiplayer that is similar to Battlefield in a lot of ways. But like I said, it's similar to Battlefield 2042, which was not so well received. So Delta Force features specialists with unique abilities and gadgets instead of a traditional class system. It only has a semi-open weapon system though, so some weapons are locked to the specialist classes or to the specialists. The maps differ in sizes, from bigger and open maps with combined arms combat to infantry only maps, and they have modes that are similar to Conquest and Breakthrough, only under a different name. There are vehicles, of course, there's some destruction as well, and they even introduced Levolution with the current season. It is an okay experience though, and as a free-to-play game, you can simply try it out and see if it's something you enjoy. Then we have game number 4, and this is actually the only one I have not played specifically for this video because I already played it back in January, so I didn't play it again. And the game I'm talking about is World War III. This is another free-to-play Modern Warfare experience, and to this day I still think that this one might be the closest to the feel of a modern day Battlefield. Yes, it has score streaks that are more reminiscent of Call of Duty, and it also doesn't have a class system. Instead, you just build your soldier and equip it with whatever gear you need, but there is a weight limit. So if you want to arm yourself to the teeth, then you can't sprint and move as fast anymore as someone who was more selective with their gear. But aside from that, you can also expect classic conquest-like modes on maps that are sometimes more open, sometimes more urban combat, and it has classic infantry and vehicle combat with a very good gunplay. Now, the only drop of bitterness is that this game has the lowest player count out of all games on this list. It doesn't even hit the 100 concurrent player mark anymore. However, the servers are filled up with bots, so when you jump into the game, you will find a match pretty quickly, but there might not be more than 8 or 10 human players. If this doesn't bother you, then you can expect a great all-out warfare experience that, in my opinion, comes closest to the Battlefield feel. With the next game, we're moving back in time a little bit because we're going back to World War II and we're playing Enlisted. This is a free-to-play game available on PC and consoles, and I hadn't played this one for I think nearly 2 years. Nonetheless, when I was hopping back into it, I still enjoyed the gameplay, but I did not enjoy the terrible, cluttered and confusing UI and progression system. Gameplay-wise, it's still great. It features several interesting theaters of war, gives you the same large-scale maps old Battlefield titles had, and it comes with an interesting twist, because instead of only playing as a single soldier, you play as a full squad. So you spawn in as a squad and can then simply switch from one person to another. The soldiers you're not controlling right now are controlled by AI. And this doesn't only make you feel like you're part of a unit, but also gives you the feeling of more players on the field than there actually are. It also features squads for ground and air vehicles and has some solid gunplay, but the only drop of bitterness is that the game has a massive grind if you don't want to spend any money on it. So unfortunately, pretty typical for a free-to-play game, but similar to Delta Force, it's free, so you can simply try it out and see if you like it. And then we have probably my favorite game on this list, and that's Isonzo. And every time I jump into this game, I'm actually wondering why I'm not playing it more. This game takes us back to World War I, specifically the Italian front, and if you enjoyed Battlefield 1, then you might enjoy this one as well. But Isonzo is a more tactical and methodical take on large-scale combat, and it puts a lot of emphasis on historical realism and squad-based gameplay. Compared to Battlefield, Isonzo leans more into the hardcore shooter side. It's still easy to learn and get into, but can be tough at the beginning when you don't know the maps and gameplay mechanics. I still think that they hit a pretty good balance between casual and hardcore with this game, just like Enlisted does, but Isonzo doesn't have any annoying grind because it's not a free-to-play game. So this one might be interesting for everyone who's looking for a focused and authentic experience, but without the chaos. And then I went for a real hardcore shooter because there was simply nothing left that was still somewhere between casual and hardcore, and it was Hell Let Loose. And I gotta be honest, I was hesitant and I was skeptical at the beginning because I had played it before and got completely destroyed. But this time I knew I had to take it slow because Hell Let Loose is a tactical FPS with a focus on team-based strategic combat. Matches have up to 100 players and the maps can be huge, much bigger than Battlefield, and in the first match I played on the Tobruk map it didn't really grab me, but when I played Smolensk and switched from rifleman to medic, that's when it clicked with me, because I finally felt like I had a purpose, and even though I was not that good at the game and I was just a beginner and didn't know the maps and all of the gameplay mechanics, I still felt like I could support my team, and this was actually a really great experience and an experience that I really enjoyed. It sure sure isn't something that would replace Battlefield for me, but it's a nice change in pace and focus, so I see it more as an addition. If you're looking for a gritty and realistic experience as well, with great depth in gameplay mechanics and actual team play, and also an amazing sound design, then this game could be worth a try. One thing you should know though is that a lot of the community servers require you to use a microphone to communicate with your squad mates. And in general, this is a big part of the game, so if you play without a mic, it's of course possible, and I do this as well, I gotta be honest, but you're always missing out on a part of the experience. If you want to take this whole hardcore part even further, you can also check out Squad or Arma Reforger as well. Both games are milsims, so they give you an even steeper learning curve and large-scale battles on massive maps, but it also means communication, teamwork and logistics are absolutely necessary, and battles feel more like actual military exercises than games. Both also have a very active modding community that provides interesting operations for the players. However, for me personally, this is a bit too much, so I draw the line at the level of Hell Let Loose. There were also two more games that I tested, but that did not exactly deliver what I was looking for. And the first one is Polygon, a free-to-play low-poly experience with infantry-only combat that features a conquest-like mode, but this one felt far too chaotic and too Call of Duty-like to me to be a good alternative to Battlefield. And the second one was Insurgency Sandstorm, which is also a grounded and realistic hardcore shooter, but is also more infantry-focused, with smaller maps and small objective-based modes. However, it did not scratch the Battlefield itch as well, and also felt more like a gritty hardcore alternative to Call of Duty. So if that's something that's interesting for you, maybe you want to check it out. It's a good game, it's just not what I was looking for. And lastly, two honorable mentions that you should not take too serious, but they are fun to play for a game or two after a stressful day at work. First, there is Heroes of Valor, a game for everyone who loved the goofy cartoon graphics of Battlefield Heroes and the super casual gameplay. Unfortunately, it only has a very low player count, but with full bot support, you can play it at any time against AI and have some fun. And the second game is Hold Fast Nations at War, which is basically two games in one. One for the Napoleonic era and one for World War I. But this is even less serious than Heroes of Valor, because people are more focused on messing around or on shit talking in proximity chat, and there's music playing everywhere and so on. It's just hilarious. So if you want to be silly and you want nothing serious after a long day at work, this is for you. And it definitely slows down the pace because reloads take as long as they actually did back then. And while I was working on this video, another possible alternative was released, and that one is called Over the Top World War I. Like the name suggests, this is a World War I shooter, and it has crazy battles with up to 200 players per server. It also features infantry and vehicle combat and a mechanic that allows players to freely build their own trenches and structures. Definitely one to check out, and maybe worth a separate video once I played it a little more. And that was it for today. Let me know in the comments below if any of those games are good alternatives for you as well, or if I forgot any game on this list, let me know about these as well. And if you enjoyed the video and you don't want to miss out on any future content, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. I'm the Catwoman and you are awesome.